This is lesson 2.5, dividing fractions and mixed numbers. This is found in your notes packet on pages 10 and 11. We're going to start off with a strategy for dividing fractions. So when you divide fractions, we actually need to turn it into a multiplication problem. You're going to keep the first fraction, switch multiplication to division, and then flip the second fraction to its reciprocal, and then multiply across. You can reduce first prior to multiplying so that you're working with smaller numbers. So for example, number 1, I'm going to always require that you rewrite these out as the multiplication problem. So we're going to keep our first fraction the same, change division to multiplication, and then flip this to 4/3. When I look to simplify, I notice that I have the 2 and the 4 that are diagonal from each other, which can both be divided by 2 as a common factor. So when I do that, 1 times 2 on the top, 1 times 3 on the bottom. So 1/2 divided by 3/4 is actually 2/3. For question number 2, I'm going to have you go ahead and actually solve this one. We'll set it up together first. So I have 1/4 I'm going to keep, change to multiplication, and then flip for the reciprocal, 3/1. Go ahead and multiply. There's nothing to reduce, so 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 1 is 4. Your final answer is 3/4. In question number 3, you're going to go ahead and keep your first fraction, change to multiplication, and retake the reciprocal. The 3's can both reduce. They have a common factor of 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 2/1 is just 2. Go ahead, take a look at this one. I'm going to have you rewrite it as a multiplication problem and then go ahead and multiply. Rewriting, you're going to do 5/6 times 7/15. These both have a common factor of 5. 1 times 7 is 7. 6 times 3 is 18. Your answer is 7/18. Take a look at question number 5. We now have a negative involved. So before we even do anything, I'm going to ask you to do a sign analysis. A negative divided by a positive is going to result in a negative answer. So our answer is going to be negative. I'll go ahead and put that there. Otherwise, without that negative, you can really just rewrite this. Multiply, reciprocal. Reduce. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and we have the negative out front. So my final answer is a negative 2/3. First part of this question, do a sign analysis. Negative divided by a negative. What will your answer be? Negative divided by a negative will result in a positive. Go ahead and rewrite the question as a multiplication problem, and then you're going to type in your answer. First fraction stays, changes to multiplication, flips to the reciprocal. Negative times negative, you can kind of ignore them because our answer will be positive. You're still looking to actually reduce. These can be divided by 3. When I do that, that'll be a 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. Your answer is positive 4/5. Question 7. Drake uses 9/4 cups of sugar to make 9 mugs of brownies. How much sugar is required to make 1 brownie? So we can take the total amount of sugar that we have and divide it by the 9 brownies because we just want to know how much is in 1. So we're going to keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, and then take the reciprocal. Remember, whole numbers can be written over 1, so the reciprocal is 1/9. The 9's will actually cancel out, leaving us with 1/4, and don't forget we need to put a label because this is a word problem. Cup is perfectly fine, or if you wanted to say 1/4 cup of sugar. Question number 8. Jane eats 2/3 of a cup of cereal for breakfast every day. The box contains a total of 24 cups. How many days will it take to finish the cereal box? Go ahead, set up your division problem, rewrite it as a multiplication problem with the reciprocal, and then find the answer. When you type in your answer, make sure that you include a label. So there's 24 cups total in the box. She eats 2/3 every day, so we're going to divide by 2/3. We're going to rewrite 24 as 24/1, multiply by the reciprocal. Reduce. 12 times 3 is 36. 1 times 1 is 1. So this is a total of 36 days. We're going to go ahead and continue on page number 11 in your notes packet, and we're going to talk about mixed numbers. Just like when we were dealing with multiplying mixed numbers, we would change them to improper fractions, and then we would follow our multiplication steps. Here, we're going to change them to improper fractions and then follow our division steps. Because there's a couple different steps to the process, I'm going to ask to see every single one of your steps here. So we're going to actually rewrite these as improper fractions first. So 2 and 1/10. 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 is 21 tenths. I'm going to still rewrite this as a division problem first. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7 fifths. Now that I have my division problem written out a little bit nicer, I'm going to rewrite it as a multiplication problem with the reciprocal. I can reduce the 7 and the 21, and I can reduce the 5 and the 10. 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2. 3/2 is my final answer. We're going to leave it improper unless we have a word problem where we need to have a mixed number to make it make sense. For question number 2, we're going to go ahead and rewrite this one. So we're going to do 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4/3, divided by, I'm going to write 4 as 4 over 1. If we go ahead and rewrite it as a multiplication problem, we multiply by the reciprocal. Go ahead, calculate your answer, and then type it in. Here the 4's cancel out, so 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 1 is 3. Your answer is 1/3. For question number 3, we're going to go ahead and rewrite these. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24/7, divided by 16 over 21. So we're going to write multiply by reciprocal. And then we're going to reduce. So this can be divided by 8, which will give me 2. That'll give me a 3. The 7 and the 21 reduces by 7. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 2 is 2. So we get 9/2 for our answer here. Question number 4, I'm going to rewrite. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5/3, divided by 3 over 1. Writing this 5/3 times 1/3. Nothing to reduce, so I get 5 over 9 as my final answer. We're going to go ahead and skip number 5. Kind of gets to be some larger numbers, so we're going to ignore that one. Number 6, we're going to go ahead and do, and 10 times 8 is 80, plus 3 is 83 tenths, divided by 83 twentieths. So I have 83 tenths times 20 over 83, reduce, and I just get 2 over 1, which is really just 2. In number 7 and 8, you'll notice the negatives are back. Sign analysis first here. A positive divided by a negative will give me a negative. You're going to go ahead and change these to improper fractions, rewrite it as a multiplication problem, and type in your final answer. So in this case, 1 4/15 is going to be 19/15, divided by a negative 19/2. My answer is going to be negative just because of my sign analysis. So I'm going to have 19/15 times a negative 2/19. My 19ths will cancel, and that'll leave me with negative 2/15. In number 8, we have a negative divided by a negative, which will result in a positive. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3/2. Because I know my answer is positive, I can actually start to just ignore my signs until the very end. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27/4. We are going to rewrite this as multiply by the reciprocal. Reduce, and we get 2/9, which is positive because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. In number 9, each team that participates in Lehigh Valley relay race should cover a distance of 3 3/4 miles. If a player runs for 1 1/4 miles, how many players are in a team? So this is their total different distance, and this is how much one person is going to run. So to figure out how many players are on the team, we want to go ahead and divide the total divided by what each person does. We're going to go ahead and turn these into improper fractions. So 15/4 divided by 5/4. change them to multiply by the reciprocal, reduce, 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 and we get 3 players for our answer here, which makes sense. It should be a whole number. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at number 10. Vinny eats a bowl of 2 2/5 ounces of oats for breakfast every day. If she has 21 3/5 ounces of oats in the canister, how many bowls of oats can Vinny eat? So similar to the last one, we're going to take the total and divide by what we do on a daily basis. I'm going to ask you to type in what your final answer is. Please make sure that you actually include your label since this is a word problem. So we're going to start off with 21 3/5. And we're going to divide that by 2 2/5. We're going to change these to improper fractions. And this is going to be 12/5 here. We're going to rewrite with a multiplication problem. Reduce, 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 reduce. This makes it kind of easy here. And if you didn't realize all that reducing, you would have had to figure it out at the end. You're going to get 9 bowls of oats. So that takes us to the end of our lesson on dividing with fractions and mixed numbers. Remember, your steps are to first change to improper if you need to, if you have mixed numbers there. You're going to keep the first fraction the way that it is, change division to multiplication, and then you will take the reciprocal and you will actually go through and multiply then. That's how you divide fractions.